cyber security, cyber warfare, cyber surveillance. It's kind of the new word. Is this the new battleground? Many people are saying, well, it could be. I have talked a lot about the surveillance state here on this channel, and I've talked often about Edward Snowden, somebody who I think was a hero in many ways, somebody who helped to unveil what our government was actually doing behind the scenes. And once we learned what they were doing, we were all, I think, a little bit shook for a moment. And what we're seeing today almost feels like that, kind of on steroids. We just don't know about it. But there's a new story that is now spreading around the internet like wildfire. Edward Snowden, of course, first flagged this for me over on Twitter over the weekend. Says, stop what you're doing and read this. This leak is going to be the story of the year. And he links it to us, right? And so I think if Edward Snowden says something like that, it's probably worth a listen, given the fact that he also unveiled a story that was the story of the year, really the story of the decade, about what our government does and how much information they gobble up on a regular basis. So we're going to go through this story. It involves an Israeli security group called the NSO Group, which is based, of course, out of Israel. And The Guardian just revealed that they use this software called Pegasus to infiltrate and access your data basically wherever you are. They can actually, send you a text messages or a WhatsApp message or use some other unknown vulnerability to get access to your phone, turn on your microphone, arguably turn on your camera, wherever you are. And they're actually selling this software, this technology, the ability to do this to people all over the world. And a leak happened, and we now know who's on that list, who is being targeted for these surveillance activities. So when this comes out, it's going to be should be a big thing. Let's dive into the story over from The Guardian. So it says, revealed, leaks uncovers global abuse of a cyber surveillance weapon. Spyware was sold to authoritarian regimes used to target activists, politicians, and journalists, the data suggests. So I want to make sure that we are understanding that sub-headline there. Spyware is being sold to authoritarian regimes that is targeting activists, politicians, and journalists. Okay, so if you have a tyrannical dictatorship and you have people who are fighting to, spread democracy, for example, then that authoritarian regime, the regimes that don't really value free speech, free expression, free association, democracy, those concepts, they can spy on the people within their countries who are in favor of those ideals. They can use this software and undermine their efforts. Let's get back to it. It's called the Pegasus Project. You can see this is part of a major stub over here, written by Stephanie Kirsch-Gassner. We have Paul Lewis. We have David Pegg, Sam Cutler, Nina Lankat, and Michael Safi. Okay, published on Sunday, June 18th, 2021. And you'll know many authors, right? You don't see often articles like this that have this many authors, but let's get into the story. Human rights activists, journalists, and lawyers across the world have been targeted by governments using hacking software sold by the Israeli surveillance company called NSO Group. We're going to learn about them. There was an investigation that came by due to a massive data leak. The investigation by The Guardian and 16 other media organizations suggests that widespread and continuing abuse of NSO's hacking spyware known as Pegasus, which the company insists is only intended for use against criminals and terrorists, right? So they're on the good guy side. Pegasus is a malware that infects iPhones and Android devices, enables operators of the tool to extract messages, photos, emails, record calls, and secretly activate microphones. Oh! The leak contains a list of more than 50,000 phone numbers that it is believed have been identified as those people of interest by clients of the NSO Group. So the NSO Group is out there. This Israeli spy company, they have all sorts of technology that they can use to get into Android phones and iPhones and just sort of somehow, sounds like remotely even, just turn on your microphone, secretly turn it on. So they don't have to have access to this. Remember, we've heard a lot about these data problems for a long time here, where the FBI is trying to crack into the iPhone of somebody who shot. I think there was a shooting that took place in California, which is where this really all started to unfold. And Apple said, no, you're on your own. Figure it out. So they're not going to help them breach their own security. But that doesn't mean that other companies don't have vulnerabilities that have not been released to the public. And so if this international group has these vulnerabilities, then they can just go and just remotely access your device. Previously, the FBI needed to have the device. Remember that? They needed to plug it in. The device was encrypted. They asked Apple for the unencryption key, and Apple said no. So now it sounds like they can just send you a message and turn on your microphone. Just start recording and downloading data from that. And they have a list of 50,000 people on whom this technology may have been used, according to The Guardian. Lawyers, journalists, human rights activists, everybody. Scary stuff. Who is the NSO Group? Let's go check them out. And you'll notice here is the headline of their webpage. Cyber intelligence for global security and stability. The NSO creates technology that helps government agencies prevent and investigate terrorism and crime to save thousands of lives across the globe. Well, that sounds nice. They're just stopping terrorism. We all hate terrorism and crime too. And they're saving thousands of lives. They're doing good stuff. They're doing good stuff over there. And funny, down here, they have this big bar. As soon as the article came out, I'm not sure if this was added after the fact, but they have this big bar down here that says, oh, the first annual transparency and responsibility report. So as this, information of this leak slowly starts to make its way public, suddenly they come out, oh, we have a report. We have a report that highlights the safeguards against the misuse of our technology, and it outlines internal governance and compliance processes. And they just did the first one this year because they know what's coming. They know what, we should probably, what should we do? They found all of our secret hacking files. What should we do? Let's create a committee, and we're going to call it the Transparency and Responsibility Report. And we're going to say we're going to do this annually. How does that sound? Brilliant. Yeah, it's great. Everybody at the conference rooms high fives each other. They go out there. They say, no, we follow the rule only being used for terrorists and criminals, and believe us. So let's see if you do or not. Totally up to you. Let's go back. Figure out who else they are. So they develop best-in-class technology to help the government detect and prevent terrorism, use cases preventing terrorism, including gun violence, which is the word du jour from the new administration, car bombs, suicide bombers, break up different types of criminality, find and rescue kidnapped children. So that's good. And we have assist emergency search in locating survivors. So I'm not sure why they need access to your iPhone for that, maybe your GPS data, but you can choose Find My iPhone. Anyways, so that's what the NSO Group does. And here are their values. I always like values for firms. We talk a lot about them here. Accountability, which is something we talk about on the show, right? Accountability and transparency, shining that big, beautiful spotlight. They talk about excellence. They have boldness, of course, pretty bold in what they're doing, and integrity. Another good one you'll see often. Boldness, we believe in success comes by being intrepid. At the NSO, alongside a deep understanding of our business responsibilities, we emphasize being bold, yet being accountable. Well, we'll see if they stay true to that. So we've got NSO Group. We now know who they are. They had a list of 50,000 phone numbers that could have been clients or people of interest that were spied on by the NSO Group. So where did this all come from? Forbidden Stories is a Paris-based nonprofit organization. They are the presence of a phone number in the data does not reveal whether the device was infected by Pegasus. But the consortium of Forbidden Stories believes that the data is indicative of the potential target's government clients. So possible surveillance attempts. So maybe not everybody on that list was actually spied upon, but who knows? They might have been sort of in the bucket of potentials. Forensics analysis of a small number of phones shows that about half of them had traces of the Pegasus software. So maybe this is something that can even sort of cover up for itself. The Guardian and its media partners, listen to this, will be revealing the identities of people whose number appeared on the list in the coming days. So they're just going to tell you who's on the list. They include hundreds of business executives, religious figures, academics, NGO employees, so non-government organization employees, union officials, and government officials, including cabinet ministers, presidents, and prime ministers, folks. Prime ministers, presidents. You have an Israeli intelligence group who is capable of hacking into a president or prime minister's Android or iPhone device and turning on the microphone. Woo! Not good. The list also contains the numbers of close family members of one country's ruler, suggesting the ruler may have instructed their intelligence agencies to explore the possibility of monitoring their own relatives. Can you guess what world leader that might be? Are they doing business with North Korea over there? So the Guardian now is going to do the slow drip, which I just love. That just drip, 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 if they actually drip anything good. But here it is. Oh, we're on camera. Here it is over here. The disclosures begin on Sunday with the revelation that the reports of more than 180 journalists are listed in the data. Big number, 180 journalists. Ooh, including reporters, editors, and executives at the Financial Times, CNN, fake news CNN, the New York Times, France 24, The Economist, and the Associated Press and Reuters. Oh man, what's the media going to say about this? Aren't they like all in favor of rooting out harmful information? What if they say this is just harmful information? The phone number of a freelance Mexican reporter was also in the list, and NSO said that even if his phone had been targeted, did not mean that they actually had access to it. Okay, so let's take a look at what we've got going on here. The consortium analysis of the leaked data. Now, I want to pay close attention to this. So this is a screenshot that came over from the Guardian article. And we can just kind of look geographically around the world and see who's on this list. It says the consortium analysis of the leaked data identified at least 10 governments believed to be NSO customers. So they had access to this software. We've got Azerbaijan, we got Bahrain, we got Kazakhstan, Mexico, Morocco, Rwanda, Saudi Arabia, Hungary, India, and the United Arab Emirates. They're all in there. So which is curious, right? You think, the Israelis are very close with the United States government in many, many ways, including militarily, including to combat terrorism. Would they be working with this organization? I mean, why wouldn't they be working with this organization? And why wouldn't this organization be working with other, allies of Western democracies, let's say, for example? So here we've got, the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia. Those aren't really seen as pillars of democracy throughout the world. So you're missing some of them. You're missing places like England. We're missing the United States. We're missing Australia. We're missing some pretty big players and some countries that are even a part of the Five Eyes Alliance. So why didn't they get the data? Why didn't they get the goods? My friends, I think this is just the beginning. That's the reason why it's not shown here, because we're talking about the dog that doesn't bark. We're expecting a dog to be barking here. We're expecting the U.S. to be involved in this, and they're not. Why is that? Weird. And also Australia and England and some of the other, allies that you would typically expect to find in some of the other surveillance states that we've talked about here on the show. They're not here. So is it because they're not involved or because they're not included in the leak just yet? Well, you can be, of course, the arbiter of that. Next up, we've got analysis of data that suggests that the NSO client country that selected the most numbers was Mexico. Both Morocco and the UAE had more than 10,000 numbers. So 15,000 over in Mexico, Morocco more than 10,000. A lot of people being spied on over there and in the UAE. We also have some data here. The phone numbers which were selected, possibly ahead of a surveillance attack, span more than 45 countries across 4 continents. More than 1,000 numbers in Europe, European countries, right? France, more than 1,000 over there. Here's some England, looks like. What else we have? Turkey, South America, and Mexico. Nothing in the U.S.? That's weird. Nothing in Australia? Curious. Well, let's see. Without forensic examination of the mobile devices, it's impossible to say whether the phones were subject to an attack. NSO has always maintained it does not operate the systems that it sells to vetted government customers, and it does not have access to the data of its customers' targets. So once it's out of their hands, it's out of their hands. It's up to them. If they want to spy on somebody, they're welcome to do that. In statements issued through its lawyers, the NSO denied the false claims that said it continued to investigate all credible claims of misuse. It said that the 50,000 figure is being described as exaggerated. The company sells only to military, law enforcement, and intelligence agencies in 40 unnamed countries. It says it rigorously vets its human rights records before allowing them to use its spy tools. Okay. Here's where it went to. Intelligence agencies, 51%. Law enforcement agencies, 38%. So that's scary. And military, 11%. Here's how it works. Attack vectors, Pegasus, can be installed on a phone through vulnerabilities in common apps or by tricking the target into clicking a malicious link. So it sounds like, right, they can just send you a text message, a WhatsApp, they can send you an iMessage, or just use some other unknown vulnerability. They can actually send that to you, meaning they don't actually have to jack into your phone. They can just send it. And then once installed, it installs the Pegasus spyware software, and then it can harvest any data from the device and transmit it back to the attackers. Other texts, other emails, other photos and videos. Activate the microphone, activate your camera, record your calls, everything and anything. They just turn it on. They can just see right there, probably see your screen, probably turn on the front camera and see what you're looking at as you're looking at the screen. Say, oh, he's looking at stocks again. Well, those are not doing so good. But, they can follow you along if they wanted to. Wow. All right. By accessing the sensors in the phone, they can also log a person's past movements and track their location in real time with pinpoint accuracy for establishing the direction and speed a car was traveling in. The latest advances in the technology enable it to penetrate phones with zero-click attacks, meaning a user does not even need to click on a link for their phone to be affected. Guarnari has identified evidence that the NSO has been exploiting vulnerabilities associated with iMessage, comes installed on all iPhones, and been able to penetrate even the most up-to-date iPhone running the latest version of iOS. His team's forensic science analysis discovered successful attempts last month. So it sounds like they've got some pretty deep vulnerabilities in these different software. So I used to be an iPhone owner. When I was younger and, a little bit more naive, I used to use that operating system. So what happened is I became an adult and migrated over to Android. Wait for those comments. And I stopped using iMessage. But when I was on iPhone, I was a big jailbreaker. I used to love to jailbreak my iPhone and tinker around with it. And I had a lot of fun with it. I think it's a great platform. I just like to needle iPhoners. But it's something that, it was always a cat and mouse game. You would crack the iPhone, Apple would update it, you'd crack it again, it would take longer, you'd have to, somebody else would crack it, update it, crack it, and there's a very, very geohot, very impressive man who was very responsible for that back during the jailbreak era. But it sounds like, all of those were public releases that many people were able to utilize and exploit, but these different companies, like the NSO Group, have their own vulnerabilities that they can use to, just sort of hack your phones, and they don't tell anybody about it. So Apple doesn't have the ability to patch them. The other exploits were public. GeoHot just released them. And so Apple would just go, oh, darn it, you found a hole in our platform. And so we would correct it. But the NSO Group, of course, is not doing that. They posted a response here. They say, following the publication of the recent article of Forbidden Stories, we wanted to directly address the false accusations and the allegations presented there. It says the report by the story is wrong assumptions and uncorroborated theories, that raise serious doubts about the reliability and the interests of the sources. After checking their claims, we firmly deny the false allegations made in their report. Their sources have supplied them with information which has no factual basis, as evident by the lack of supporting documents. Well, they said that more of it's going to come out soon. In fact, these allegations are so outrageous that NSO is considering a defamation lawsuit. NSO Group has good reason to believe the claims are made are unnamed sources. They're based on a misleading interpretation of data from accessible and overt basic information, have no bearing on the list of customers that we've worked with. The claims that the data was leaked is complete lie and ridiculous. Such data has never existed on any of our servers. NSO has said previously our technology was not associated in any way with the murder of Jamal Khashoggi. We can confirm that our technology was not used to listen, monitor, track, or collect information regarding him or his family members mentioned in the inquiry. Already investigated this. We would like to emphasize that we sell its technology only to law enforcement and intelligence agencies. NSO does not operate the system and has no visibility of the data. Right, so here we go. Kidnap children, survivors, right? Airspace, protect airspace, collapse buildings, right? All of the things that you would normally see to get hackers and pedophile rings and trafficking. Okay, so we're doing real good work out there. All right, so what do you think about that? Let's take a look at the chat over from watchingthewatchers.locals.com and over on YouTube now, because I've got that. I got multiple screens now, so I can see some of that. All right, let's see. We've got Joe Snow's over there. Speech Unleashed is over there. We've got Baranski is in the house. He says iPhone is more secure than Android, but is that saying much? Shrug, right? So it's kind of funny. All right, let's take a look at some questions and see what's coming in from the community over there. We've got a couple here. Grateful Panda says thank you. We have Savdi says, That's an old topic. We have NSO Group. Oh, I want to know says doesn't surprise me that the Israeli have eavesdropping software. Sold it to some. Some Israels are the worst cabal in the world. Mossad went and killed terrorists in other countries. I'm sure the local police have this technology too. At least Stingray. Capitol Police needs something to do also all over the USA. Yeah, it's a good point. Want to know? Yeah, so the police have a lot of this technology. It's called Stingray. We talked a lot about that on a previous episode. Kareem is here, says, the issue is I see that the next generation will be born into this, and for them, it will be normal. Did you know when photography was first created, it was controversial? People were not comfortable with someone they never met, know what they look like, as if cameras are ever going away at this point. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, it's true. It's a complicated thing. I've been thinking about that a lot lately, right? Kids are sort of growing up in a world where they're talking to these devices all around us now, naturally, in a way that I'm not comfortable with for some reason. I never talk to my devices. I have them everywhere, but I never talk to them. And other kids now, they just sort of do it all the time. It's kind of weird. And they're going to be more accustomed to that as the technology improves, which is kind of cool, kind of scary. All right, one Florida man says, how many people do you suppose are being spied on that are Trump supporters according to their social media posts? You have to be proactive when you're trying to prevent future insurrections. Well, I'm going to be a little bit offended if I'm not on that list, quite frankly. All right, which is why I'm of the perspective that I've always said I think the government is watching everything all the time. So I live a very boring life. All right, good questions. Let's see what else is going on. We've got, oh my gosh, I've got so many screens. I don't know what to do with myself. All right, we've got another question coming in from Farmer's Daughter. Says, Robert, I remember when Biden was announced the winner, you were so sure it would take years to implement his policies. Man, I wish you would have been right. The thing is, we weren't aware how far ahead of the curve they were before they got him in there. Forgive you. Thank you, Farmer's Daughter. I appreciate that. By the way, regarding Friday's stream, I have so enjoyed seeing your evolution. So happy I found you enjoying locals. I'm grateful that you're here, Farmer's Daughter. Absolutely love you to death. I appreciate all your love and comments, and you're a lot of fun. You're always spunky in the chat and around, and so I appreciate it. Yeah, things are moving pretty quickly here, aren't they? And I did say that back in 2000, back during the election. It's like, well, how much are they going to get done by 2022? And I still kind of think that. I mean, really, what have they gotten done? Not much, right? A lot of it has been executive orders, a ton of spending. But they didn't pass their criminal justice reform bill. They didn't pass H.R. 1. The infrastructure deal, who knows where that goes. And so there's, a lot of the big issues that the Democrats are really excited about kind of stalled. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't very scary, problematic things happening. I also would not have imagined that the federal government through the White House would be coming out here and saying that we actually have to essentially censor social media companies. I mean, that's insane. And the fact that people are sort of clapping their hands like idiot seals, oh, yeah, take away all my freedoms and my liberties, no problem. It's insane to me, but they are, because they all have been indoctrinated to think that if you don't follow in lockstep with whatever your political party says, then somehow you're killing somebody, grandma out there, just for trying to live your life. It was a weird thing. I saw some woman on CNN the other day. Who was that? I can't remember her name. But basically talking about that, right? The default for existing in life is the default is you don't have access to freedom. We'll give you some freedom if you comply with our rules, like getting vaccinated, wearing a mask, doing all of these things we tell you to do. Then we're going to just kind of give you a little, here's another freedom for you. One more freedom token for you. You've been a very good boy. Here's one for you too. No, that's not how that works. Okay. We have had this conversation many times. The government exists based on consent of the governed. And there are many of us out there who say that freedom comes first. Freedom is the default. If you want to, tell certain people that there's something scary out in the world, they have the free choice to decide not to go out into the world. But the rest of us who also want to engage in our society, we start there. We don't ask for permission there. At least that's my perspective. The country seems like it might be moving the other direction, though. Not us here, obviously, but other people. All right. Robute is here. And I got to be careful with these ones. Says, of course, the government is such as the U.S. is spying on you. Tips include using Monero for cash for transactions, which is a cryptocurrency. Well, I'm not endorsing that or endorsing financial advice here. But there are a lot of tips here that you can use. A Pixel phone, Graphene OS are some of these concepts. Prepaid SIM cards. Don't use SMS. Use Signal. Use Element for communication. JavaScript by default. You should write Robute, you should write an article about this, man. You know a lot about this. Avoiding spying is a pain. But he says Techlore, the hated one, has some extra tips on privacy and security. So pretty benevolent post there, Rebute. Thank you. Techlore and the hated one has some extra tips on privacy and security. So go check that out. And thank you for that, Rebute. Very, very good data there. We have another, already got that one. Jeremy Matrita says, ahem, no comment. Oh, that must be, is that an iPhone? Is that an iPhone comment there, Jeremy? I think it is. Well, let's see what else. No Doubt says, iPhone is more secure. So I knew it was going to turn into an iPhone conversation. iPhone is more secure, but it is standardized. It's also the bigger target. Android is easier to compromise, but the wide variability in implementations makes it less rewarding to compromise. Oh, okay, so that's a good point, right? So you get sort of security by obscurity is the thing, right? There's so many different Android phones. There's Samsung and there's whatever the other ones are. I don't even know I have a Samsung. All the other Android phones, there's like a million of them. And so each one of them has their own implementation of Android. So if you wanted to go and hack Android, you kind of have to be able to hack all of them. And since they all change it a little bit, it's kind of hard to do that. iPhones are all the same. They all run the same software. So if you get one crack, you can kind of take out a huge swath of iPhones out there. Last one on this segment says, Robert, I think you are talking to your devices right now. That's true. There's nobody else in here. It's just me. There's not another person in here. I am just talking to my devices. Fortunately, I think there's somebody on the other end, but I could be wrong, right? This could just be a giant ruse, and I could just be rambling to myself in here all day, which sometimes I do, but I'm not on camera. I just ramble to myself elsewhere. I just don't record it. Maybe I should record it. All right, great questions. All of those came over from watchingthewatchers.locals.com, and there's a lot of activity over there in the chat. Relic Hunter showed up. Good to see you. Zuck's over there, and some others. So appreciate all your support at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. All right. Thanks so much for watching. Before you head out, I want to just remind you that I am a criminal defense lawyer here in Scottsdale, Arizona, where my team and we've got a long history of helping good people facing criminal charges to find safety, clarity, and hope in their cases and beyond that in their lives. Our phone number for a free case evaluation is 480-787-0394. You can also find us online at www.rrlawaz.com. We can help with any type of criminal charge in the state of Arizona. Things like DUI, drug offenses, misdemeanor offenses. And we can also help with clearing up old case records, like expunging cases or making sure that you can restore your rights so that you can vote again or possess a firearm again or apply for some other federal benefits. We can remove mugshots off the internet. Basically, anytime that you or somebody you know or love is in trouble with the law in the state of Arizona, we have an amazing team of people. We would just love the opportunity to help. And our phone number, of course, 480-787-0394. And if you don't need any legal services, that's a very good thing. But you may be interested in some informational offerings so that you are prepared if you do have to deal with the police. And of course, I want to invite you to head on over to gumroad.com/Robert Gruler. You'll notice here, I've got several different trainings that are available, including the law enforcement interaction training. This is the 1, 2, 3 rule for dealing with the police. It's one rule you need, 2 questions that the police can ask of you, and 3 responses if they ask you a problematic question. So that's available now. You can also get a load at my personal productivity system here called Existence Systems. Fun little course. And then we have here, if you're a lawyer or a legal professional, be sure to check out this program. We are meeting twice every month. Again, all of this over at gumroad.com/Robert Gruler. And if none of that sounds any good to you, well, just go ahead and give us a follow, because I'm working on some other products and some other offerings. And of course, if you have not already done so, want to invite you one more time to head on over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com. It's where you can support the show, and it's where we can connect. We've got monthly Zoom meetings and a lot of other goodies coming up. So I look forward to seeing you there. Thank you so much for watching and for all of your love and support. I will see you on the next one.